Back in 2002, Sly Cooper and the Thieves Raccoons was released. Alongside Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank, the Sly Cooper franchise is considered one of the defining franchises of the PS2 era, with its sequel, Sly 2, being considered one of the best PS2 games of all time. So when Sucker Punch released Sly 3 in 2005, there was some hope that a Sly 4 would come out at some point, but with the release of the PS3 the next year and Sucker Punch releasing Infamous, those hopes started to fade. That is, until the Sly Collection came out and we were treated with this. We were finally getting Sly 4, and to say I was excited is an understatement. But that excitement wasn't the last, as when it came out in 2013, the reception was kind of mixed. I mean, personally, I think it's a solid entry in the franchise and consider it the third best in the series. But why? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, so get comfy because we'll look back at Sly Cooper, Thieves in Time. Before we get into Sly 4, I just want to go for my thoughts on the first three games. I'm not going to go too in-depth in these games, just my basic thoughts on them. If you want more in-depth retrospective on the original trilogy, I recommend BMAX's video on these games. They're all super well done and very informative. So while I think it's one of the best games of the PS2 era, Sly 1 sort of repeats the formula of PS1 platformers. It's just one hub world with different smaller areas that you need to complete in order to move on to the final boss. Along the way, you can collect clue bottles to open up saves and coins to get extra lives. You're also the world's worst thief, as you are constantly caught by the guards, and in most cases, do have to kill all of them to complete the level. That being said, most of these levels are solid. You do have your occasional clunky minigame like racing or deep sea diving, but each area is unique to the hub world it occupies. Sly 2, in my opinion, is one of the best games ever made and my personal favorite game of all time. It moved away from the Spyro/Crash-like style and went for a more open world direction. You were able to explore these interesting and diverse locations from the rooftops of Paris to the jungles of India to the war-torn streets of Prague. Instead of collecting keys, you were sent up these big heists that you take part in at the end of each level. All of this in service of a story that I think remains one of the best in video games. If you've never played Sly 2 before, please do. I honestly think it's a masterclass in video game design. Sly 3 is okay. Look, I'm gonna be blunt. Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves is my least favorite of the Sly games. Look, don't get me wrong, I still think it's a lot better than most AAA titles released today, and that it deserves the praise it gets. But when you compare it to Sly 2, a game that made multiple changes to the core gameplay, Sly 3 feels empty. You can attribute this to the fact that Sly 3 was released just barely over a year after Sly 2, but Jak 3 was released a year after Jak 2, and that had a lot of new additions. Gone are the clue bottles and the hidden treasure throughout the levels, but you do get things like costumes, new characters to play, and a chance to finally play as Carmelita, but none of these go past the surface level. Yes, you get costumes, but they're only meant to disguise you, and you don't have to use them after the missions that they're required for. Yes, you get to play as new characters, but aside from the Guru, they're nothing more than mini-games in disguise. It just feels like Sly 3 was never fleshed out on a gameplay level. I'd argue Sly 4 does everything Sly 3 does, but much, much better. With the exception of one thing, but we'll get to that in Chapter 5. But in the end, Sly 3 just feels barren. You're not really given any reason to roam the levels outside of missions, and I think that's one of the things Sly 4 excels at. But before we get into level design, I do want to talk about the presentation. Fans of the series know that the design of the Sly franchise leans heavily on comic books. From the animated cutscenes to the little POW symbols when you kill an enemy, it's clear that the comic book style is a big part of Sly's identity. Sanzaro Games decided to move away from the comic book style and go towards more of a Saturday morning cartoon feel for the cutscenes. In my opinion, it looks really solid. The animation is very clean, even comical at times, though I do miss the comic style of the previous games. As for the graphics, they're top notch. Besides, we still have the cel-shaded style for the actual game, and honestly looks fantastic. The character movements and expressions are much more fluid and readable compared to the previous games. It's not all perfect though. It seems as though there were some furry artists working at San Zero at the time, given the amount of paintings of busty animals there are in the geisha house. Nothing against you furry artists, I respect the talent, even the fact that some of you are pretty fucking rich. But I don't want people walking in and seeing big rhino boobies on my TV. And don't get me started on the Carmelina belly dance minigame near the end. But overall, the look of the game is great. The style of the game isn't the only thing to give praise to. The score, composed by returning composer Peter McConnell, is a standout amongst the series. Paris by Rooftop is especially good given its nostalgic feel. Everything is done in a way to make you feel like this is a return to form, and it works. The first thing you're going to notice is that these levels are much bigger than any previous game. From the towering trees in feudal Japan to the tall castles in England, these are by far the most jam-packed levels in the series, and I think they're very well done. Returning from Slide 2 with the clue bottles and collectible treasure, and it's a treat to see them return, though it is a bit difficult to find the clue bottles. Yeah, it was kinda hard in Slide 2, but Slide 4's huge levels make them a real challenge. You'll often find yourself running around the map multiple times just to find those last few clue bottles. It's really tough, I'm not gonna lie, but it makes opening the safes all the more rewarding. Each level feels like a jungle gym with various areas around the map for Sly and the gang to traverse, though it can feel a bit cluttered. Episode 3 especially. But they all tell a story about what the bad guys are up to. A good example of this is Cave in the Clan Raccoon, where you see these eggs flying through the sky into machinery, making you question what plan the villains have up their sleeve. It doesn't always make sense, like I don't understand why they have this whole carnival in episode 4 when it has nothing to do with the villain. Like it makes sense in Go West Young Raccoon as Sheriff Toothpick is this vain, egotistical armadillo who considers himself the best cowboy in the West. It makes sense he wants to see a whole bunch of posters honoring himself and a set of games celebrating his accomplishments. Here, well, we'll talk about it in a bit. Each level has a whole set of obstacles and dangers that make it feel alive. I mean, compared to Slide 3 where the worlds feel drab and empty, there's no reason to go off the beaten path and actually explore the area you're in. Here, it's much more similar to Slide 2's level design, whereas the more you explore, the more you learn about the villain's personal goals, as well as the plan for the head bad guy that's scheming. It gives the player a reason to go out and explore the levels outside of missions and collectibles. We're given reason to return to previous levels thanks to the gimmicks from Slide 3 that were thankfully improved upon. Costumes. In Slide 3, one of the new mechanics were costumes that you could wear to fool guards. It was an interesting concept in theory, but it felt really squandered. They were often one-and-done gimmicks to get past a mission, and not every level had a costume, so it felt like it was something that was just slapped on to say, we added a new feature. Not here. The costumes now have more variety of mechanics that make each unique and fun. While some offer disguise, they all offer new ways to traverse the maps and even unlock new areas to collect treasure. The first is the samurai costume, which is to ease us back into the costume mechanic. It works very similarly to the costumes in Slide 3, allowing us to hide in plain sight from the guards, but it also allows us to walk through and even deflect fire. The prison costume also allows Sly to traverse through levels quickly by running on his ball, while moving heavy objects that can get in our way. The Sabretooth costume lets us leap long distances to get to new areas or attack guards while also allowing us to play dead and sneak by unsuspecting guards. The Archer costume just lets us shoot arrows and gets us to different locations on the map. Lastly, there's the Thief costume, which not only slows down time, but gives us a giant sword, and everything is better with a giant sword. Costumes aren't the only thing Thieves in Time does better than Slide 3. As I said at the start, Slide 3 allowed us to play as different characters other than the core 3, but they all felt like mini-games in disguise. You had your driving minigame, your horde-like minigame, and your minigame that wants you to put a gun in your mouth and pull the trigger. Now, the new characters are fully playable, each with their own types of moves that makes them feel similar yet completely new. The ancestors have been a part of the Sly Cooper story since the very beginning, and giving us a chance to meet and play as them feels like the players being rewarded for sticking with the series from the start. Tennessee Kid Cooper is hands down the most fun of the ancestors, His rail slide ability mixed with his crack shot ability, taken straight from Red Dead Redemption, is honestly the most fun I had playing as an ancestor. Another improvement from Sly 3 is the ability to choose Carmelita. Before, she was secluded in certain missions, and while she was fun to play in that game, we can buy new power-ups and play as her whenever we want. I do think she's a tad bit wasted here, as she has no mission specifically for her. She usually just pops in to help out. But still, she offers the second most power of all the playable characters, just behind Murray. Honestly, I argue she's a bit more powerful than Murray, as her shock pistol allows her to take down guards from a distance and avoid damage. Returning to the game are the collectible treasures hidden around the map. I won't lie, I do miss the fact guards are alerted by the fact treasure was taken. Being able to bring treasure back to the hideout, earn money, and then see it on your treasure wall is a big plus for me. You can see everything you have stolen and read fun little details about them. The costumes come into play as well, as you can use your costumes to uncover secret areas around the level to steal treasure. Some treasure even comes with passive power-ups that you don't have to activate. Boss battles are also improved upon. They were fine in Sly 2 and 3, but they were more beat-em-ups than anything else. One of the goals Sanzaro had when designing these boss battles was to bring back the Sly 1-esque boss battles that played into the boss's character, such as Raleigh being an inflatable frog so he's able to grow to gargantuan size to crush you, or Miss Ruby's voodoo battle. In my opinion, they succeed as it's sort of a mix between the Sly 1 battles and the Sly 2 and 3 battles. You have to stun the boss by using their attacks against them before going in for the beat-em-up section. Honestly, the gameplay overall is solid. I don't think there's much I can complain about.
Whoa, those electrostatic repulsors are strong!
Alright, so it's not all perfect on a gameplay level. Motion control sections of the game feel like they can be a drag and can be a bit spotty. Worst of it is during Bentley's hacking sections. Sanzaro added on to Bentley's hacking by adding 2 minigames along with keeping the Sly 2 and 3 hacking game. One of them being a side-scrolling shooter, which I like. It can be fairly difficult and adds onto the game in a fun way. But the motion control hacking, no. It can be very easy to slip off the side or fall down a hole, and it can be very frustrating. Another weak point of the gameplay is the final boss fight, which is nothing more than a series of quick-time events. It's a bit anticlimactic. The big boss has been built up throughout the game, and we take him out through a few button prompts. But hey, every Sly game has a few gameplay issues. Sly 2 is my favorite game of all time, and it still has missions I dread playing again. A few issues can't hurt the game, right? Right? So, when people discuss this game, the issues that they usually have are about the story and the tone. And yeah, it's a problem. While I do enjoy this game, I fully understand why people have an issue with it. In his series retrospective, BMX goes over how the story in each game is important to both the gameplay and the characters, and he is 100% correct. As he said in the Sly 2 video, the characters drive the story, not the other way around. Actions you took in one level would affect the story and characters down the line. Here, it feels the opposite. The story drives the characters, and moments feel more convenient rather than natural. Characters often appear once the story calls for them rather than naturally, and the multitude of MacGuffins used to advance the story feels unearned outside of the first. Oh, so Carmelita just so happened to have a coin that could take us back to Arabia?
How convenient.
I also don't think the main bad guy of the game, Cyril Paradox, is a great villain for Sly to go up against. He's supposed to be a genius billionaire art collector, but he ends up being... what's the word?
An idiot?
Yeah, that's it. Villains who have been burned by the Cooper family is nothing new, but they were all intelligent people who let their anger and greed get the better of them. Cyril is just a moron who blew his own cover for a plan that didn't even make sense to begin with.
You had it made. You could have been the biggest thief of all time, but you had to target my ancestors and blow your own cover. You exposed your operation because of your ego.
I mean, you found the first Cooper dude. You could have ended it all right there. Another issue the game has is its tone. While the Sly games have never had a serious tone, it knew when to take things seriously. The Cooper legacy has always been shown to be very dear to Sly as something that's been a driving force in all 3 games. Sly cares about his family name and will do anything to protect it. Now, he's never been a stoic character, he cracks jokes, but they always felt natural. He would make light of a situation and have fun banter with the others, but he always knew when he had to get serious. Here, it feels like he cracks a joke every other line.
Your database security, Murray's pants. You have a farm? The amazing Cooperone! Huh? Right? It's good.
Like, it works sometimes. Him having a back and forth with El Jefe feels something like that could have been taken out of a previous game.
A magnificent likeness, isn't it, Cooper? Almost as handsome as the real thing.
Huh. Yeah. Looks almost big enough to contain your overinflated ego.
But other times, it feels out of place and isn't really funny. In fact, most of the characters crack jokes often. I think it's far worse for Bentley, as part of his arc has to do with missing his girlfriend, Penelope. I think she's only mentioned once after the opening cutscene before she shows up again. Yes, it's mentioned he's hiding how worried he is, but there's plenty of moments where Bentley's alone and the characters talk so goddamn often.
Who says turtles are slow?
I can't believe they caught Ryoichi. That samurai armor should do the trick here. I must have read about it.
Shut up! Oh my god, I don't care!
That I feel like there could have been some lines of dialogue focusing on his worry for Penelope rather than
I really need to equip this chair with air conditioning.
that. Since we're on the topic of Penelope, Episode 4 is controversial, to say the least. In my opinion, a lot of the game's negatives are condensed in this one level, and I think that's a shame. The England map is probably my second favorite map in the game, with its dark atmosphere and different ways to explore it with your bow and arrow. You also have these fun missions that include a mini boss fight where Carmelita saves Sir Galf from a giant 3-headed robot dragon. It's also supposed to be the big game-changing level that turns things upside down, sort of like Prague or China from Sly 2 and 3. It's a turning point for the story, and if it was done right, it could have been the best the franchise had to offer. But it wasn't done right. Characters like Sly, Carmelita, and Penelope take a bit of a left turn here. One of the arcs that Carmelita had during the game was how fond she was of Sly's ancestors, particularly Tennessee, but it seems to have been resolved by the very next episode. Now she's trying to make Sly jealous, it just doesn't add up. There's also this line from Sly.
I don't recall you watching my back on any jobs.
Only when I'm trying to catch you.
But the worst of it goes to Penelope. Ah, poor Penelope. When she was introduced in Sly 3, she was shown to be an intellectual equal to Bentley. She was the RC gal who would be able to use her RC copter and car to help out in the heist, all while a romance developed between her and Bentley. It's what makes her ultimate betrayal feel out of place. While I do think the twist was decently hinted at as her album is hidden in previous cutscene, but when you look at Penelope from Sly 3 and Penelope from Sly 4, they're like two different characters, and that's because they probably were. It's rumored that a mole character was supposed to be the antagonist in this level, with Penelope retaining her protagonist status, but that was changed somewhere in development, so that Penelope could be this twist villain. It doesn't work, like at all. Penelope is introduced as a twist villain in Sly 3, though it's clear she's not an actual villain. Under the Black Baron persona, she comes across stern yet fair, showing she's above thuggish tactics as long as everyone plays by the rules. She will only hurt you if you try to cheat your way to the top. I mean, yes, she's not above cheating herself, but it's more to keep up her reputation and not for some ultimate goal. Plus, she gave up that persona to join the gang and even develops a crush on Sly, which is part of Bentley's arc to show that he's good enough on his own, that he doesn't need to compare himself to Sly to know his worth. She's also had her life saved by Sly and the gang after she's kidnapped, given pretty much all of the wealth the Cooper family accumulated over the years. Don't know where she got this idea that Sly's honorable thief ideals are a joke. He seems pretty honorable to me. It's a complete shame that this is the direction Sanzaro took with Penelope, as she was one of the best parts of Sly 3. Her dynamic within the team never felt forced. She fit right in and became a fan favorite. So much so that this reveal is, it's pretty reviled. Maybe it could have worked if it went in a different direction. In the cutscenes after her big reveal, we see Penelope looking regretful amongst the flames as she tosses a photo of her and Bentley away, while in the actual game, she seems angry and bitter. I think if Sanzaro made Penelope a more reluctant villain, it could have worked. The pieces were there, they could have fit perfectly. Have Penelope be misguiding in her needs to help Bentley reach his potential, but know that if he found out what she was doing, it would break his heart. It seemed like that was her goal near the end of the level, except it's completely overshadowed by the fact that she said in an earlier scene that she wanted to make billions in weapon design and that Bentley is dumb. It's just... ugh. So, by the end of the game, we have a lot of loose ends. Sly is stranded in Egypt, Penelope escaped from prison, and the lingering hints of clockwork in the game and the treasure gives the impression that he still poses a threat. It's been over 11 years since Thieves in Time came out, and there's still no answer. There were plans for a DLC to be released about Sly in ancient Egypt, but they never came to be. Sanzaro stated in 2014 that they had no plans to create another Sly game, and then they were bought by Facebook in 2020 to focus on games for the Oculus Rift. There have been rumors of a Sly 5 for the past few years, but Sucker Punch has stated Sly 5 is not being worked on. It's probably due to the sales of Thieves in Time, which were not great. The 3D platformer genre was overshadowed by big budget FPSs in the last few years before 2013, and games like Dead Space 3, Bioshock Infinite, and God of War Ascension are releasing around the same time probably didn't help. So, what happens next for Sly? Honestly, I don't know. I'm bummed that we ended on a cliffhanger and there's no real sign of a new game coming out, but I do have some hope. Sly was supposed to get a movie and a TV show in the past few years, and while they both were shelved for various reasons, it does lead me to believe that the Sly Cooper franchise is still in the back of the minds of the people at Sony. I really do hope we get to see Sly come back, because the story shouldn't end stranded in the desert. Sly Cooper Thieves in Time is not a perfect game. It has its issues, and I can see why people will call it the worst of the franchise solely based on the story alone. But I think it has a lot going for it. Sanzaro did their best and created a game that they wanted to see for a long time. They have been fans of the franchise and put their heart and soul into the game. They may have been a bit misguided, but what works in Sly 4 really works. The game is very fun from its gigantic levels to its dynamic gameplay. It's a diamond in the rough that gets overlooked because of its imperfections. But I think it was a solid continuation, and I genuinely hope we get to see the Cooper gang reunite one last time. Thanks for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I did making it. I know there wasn't a whole lot of footage from episode 5. I played Sly Cooper Thieves in Time on the PlayStation Plus app, and well...
Dang it! God! Shit! No! Bitch! Shit! No! Damn it! Fucking God! Fuck! Stupid! God damn it! Come on, man! Fuck! Fucking God! Fuck! No! What? God! No! Fucking God! Whatever! Oh. No! Fuck! No! Fuck! Stupid! No! Ah! What the fuck? For fuck's sake! Fucking come on! No! Don't fucking jump at me, you piece of shit! I'll fucking stab your parents!
But still, hopefully you enjoyed it, and I hope to make more of these in the future.